Ymedia Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.
The strategy that was announced by Prime Minister Mark Carney was regarding artificial intelligence. This certainly demands a debate on artificial intelligence. Why is that? Simply put, artificial intelligence, of course, there are certain sections who are saying that yes, artificial intelligence, we need it in the field of medicine, in the field of research, data analyzing, in so many other areas. Artificial intelligence can be really beneficial. The other aspect is uncontrolled or ungoverned artificial intelligence. Now, how can that have adverse effects on us? So while we're discussing artificial intelligence, there was also a discussion when the Prime Minister announced on the age restrictions of the use of social media. I've covered many topics, I've discussed this many times, and with due respect, I've also given my opinion too, that yes, I think, yes, there should be age restriction on social media. Anybody under the age of 16, I don't think so they should be allowed to access social media. Now this age could be 16, 14 or 15. We had Councillor Josh Matlow recently. He said no, he has a daughter and he doesn't want, he said yes, of course there should be some restrictions, but age restriction completely restricting. Australia is doing that, there are countries in Europe that are doing that, and that's on the discussion in Canada as well. Even this morning there was a topic of discussion. David Miller, he said that yes, Canada is discussing that at the Liberal Party convention. There was an unbinding resolution that was brought in that yes, there should be age restriction to that. But we'll talk about artificial intelligence, we'll talk about the impacts of social media, and what's the strategy? Is this going to be an economic disruption? Are we going to lose jobs? If we listen from the Prime Minister Mark Carney, he's assuring no, there will be jobs created, and he's saying there will be thousands of jobs. To be precise, he said 250,000 jobs will be created by 2030. But we'll talk all about this. We have our associate editor, Ramona ji, with us on the show, and she will take the lead. There are so many other things that she'll talk. And we also have our tech leader. She leads the tech department, and of course she has masters in artificial intelligence. So I thought it's a good time for you to debut, not on Ymedia, but of course on TV as well, because since you know this, you live this, you've done masters in AI, you lead the tech department at Ymedia, and we work very closely. So I thought it's always good to listen from you as well. So welcome back once again. We'll listen to the Prime Minister, but also we'll listen to our colleague Shubhi as well, get his views also on this one. But why don't we start with Ramona ji. Ramona ji, your thoughts on all the discussion that's happening around artificial intelligence, social media, age restrictions. Please, your take. You go ahead first.
You know, it's a fast-paced world right now with so many things happening. I think with the onset of, OpenAI that came to the marketplace in, 2023 and gave us ChatGPT, and how fast people started consuming it, the number of downloads on that app, beat records. And then DeepSeek came out and it beat ChatGPT and OpenAI, and then you have Anthropy, who is now, almost the valuation. We're looking at massive valuations on these AI companies that are leading the world and have made workplaces more efficient. But we're also seeing, job losses. We're looking at Facebook. They just cut 8,000 jobs, saying that they need to have more AI efficiencies and to be able to funnel that money into their AI strategy. So we have this, AI superintelligence race that we're reading about in the news in terms of all these companies going full force. And part of the questions have been, when there's an AI race, are we taking some time to consider what does it mean for the future of how it's going to integrate with our lives? What does it mean for jobs that may be completely gone? What does that mean, when it comes to health and safety with all these data centers and seeing how much electricity they're going to use, but what's the fallout in terms of in its communities? And the bigger question is, it's alarming when you have the CEO of OpenAI, say that we should look at universal basic income. That the government would, whether it's like $2,000 a month that it would give to people who may not be, their job may become obsolete because we're just moving into a fast paced digital, era. And so when you hear these tech leaders like, Jeff Bezos talk about how, based on a certain income, there shouldn't be income tax, really them predicting what the future could be in terms of how we do traditional work. Of course, there's a lot of advantages as well in terms of how efficient we've become with many of our tasks. But I think, it is timely for our prime minister to have an AI strategy because of the way the world is moving and to make Canada more competitive. But I think it's more interesting for us to understand, what does this mean? How's it going to impact us? We know some of the, advantages, but what are the disadvantages? Are we, do we understand accordingly what is about to happen and how soon it's about to happen? We're talking about things changing at a rapid pace within the next few years. Things may look much different by 2030. So I think it's great that we have our in-house person who has a master's in AI, and I'm all ears to hear what Ymedia you have to say on all of this.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Because why I'm also thank you, Manaji, for all that insight. But I'm also intrigued to listen what you have to say, because I always talk that we have to connect our youth with innovation, science, technology, and AI. You did listen to what Prime Minister had to say. Your take on this?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what Mark Carney did announce, and it's this new strategy, AI for all. And he genuinely is pushing that he wants everybody in Canada to adopt AI. And I think the biggest issue that he also mentioned that we're seeing is that we're adopting AI. Canada helped pioneer a lot of the modern AI research that has happened and produced a lot of the world-leading AI talent, as well as the researchers. But they're not staying within Canada. And I think that's the biggest issue that we're having, is that we're producing these AI leaders, we're producing this research, and then they're getting up and going to the US. So it's what's Carney now, the strategy he's creating to make sure that our talent is staying within Canada, that we're now helping build new Canadian AI companies that aren't moving to the US but are staying in Canada and building in Canada. And that's why he actually introduced a $500 million fund for AI Canadian companies to help support them. And again, like you mentioned earlier, the strategy is to help create 250,000 jobs by 2031. He talked a lot about the first major part and sector that he wants to address is healthcare. So he wants to invest $200 million in just healthcare. So whether that be supporting physicians, supporting surgeons, supporting nurses and other practices within healthcare, to find ways to streamline it, to make it easier to help them with diagnosis. And it's not to take away jobs. I think that's the biggest fear that we have, and that a lot of Canadians are kind of pushing back on AI, is because they're worried about all the jobs disappearing. I think that it will take over some jobs, but I think with that, it will create jobs. So I think that the biggest takeaway that I have from all of this, and with studying AI and working in AI and kind of listening to what Mark Carney had to talk about today, is that it's not AI versus humans. It's it's humans who use AI versus humans who don't. So we need to adopt AI. It's not going anywhere, it's here, it's getting bigger, it's being adopted globally. So we need to adopt AI as individuals, and that's when we can stop worrying about it taking over our jobs. We need to create those jobs for ourselves. So learn AI, pick it up. It's very simple. I think there's advanced AIs, there's AI engineers, but it's also day-to-day tasks, whether that be sending out an email mass just using AI. I think it's learn it. So don't think that it's AI versus humans. It's humans who use AI, adopt AI, versus humans who don't and fall behind, because you will fall behind if you don't adopt AI.
I couldn't agree more on the point that you just made, because every business today, including media as well, if you're not using AI, yes, you're right, you will fall through the cracks, and it'll be very, very difficult to come back. Why? Because, as Ramonaji was mentioning earlier, it's a very fast-paced world with AI. Every second, there's a new invention, there's new technology coming up. We need to keep ourselves abreast with all these things, Ramolaji, I'll come to you again now. Regarding the jobs, as Iramji was mentioning as well, regarding the jobs, I think this is my opinion, I want your take on this as well. I don't think so we need to be too much scared. I remember a few years ago we had a professor from US, a very well known, he has a celebrity status in US as much as he teaches in university. So he was here and both of us, we were invited at a school to give lecture on AI. So now the professor definitely discussed the technical aspect of AI because he is the master, he's the professor there in an American university. So when I went, I asked a simple question first of all. I said, you know what? Again, this is a very subjective thing. I said, which field demands creativity at its best? So of course you need creativity in any field, whether in engineering, in the field of medicine, you're a lawyer, you're an architect, you could be a music composer. We all need some sort of creativity, definitely. In media as well, we need creativity. But I said, and creativity as much as artificial intelligence, they'll offer different models, so many different things. But imagine the art of filmmaking. If you are a filmmaker, you have to be very creative in the selection of costumes, in the selection of actors, when you are doing your cast. You have to be very creative to pick up a story writer, screenplay, music, background score, a million things. So I doubt, of course you could still have an AI formula which will pick up all these things. Okay, this is the actor, screenplay, they'll do all that. But I doubt we'll have anything regarding AI which can do all those things. So this is what was my message to all the students there, that always believe in yourself. And the second point was, as a journalist, here is a robot, or someone with the brain of an artificial intelligence. So they can definitely tap a million things right now, and they can remember everything. So I always use this. I don't know the railway budget for Russia in 1962, but I read lots of newspaper to know the current news. But this person with AI would know that. But I think what is importantly missing, the human touch, the emotion, the connectivity that we can bring, the creativity that we can bring, I think that human touch would be missing. So of course, I think to sum up, I can say we as humans, I think AI and the human emotions, the human intelligence, we can complement each other provided this AI is used, I would say, in a very regulated, governed, or whatever term we want to use. Ramonaji, your take on all this.
I disagree with both of you, actually, because I do the news and I see the number of job losses. I see that a lot of things have been replaced. So I will be the first one to say that I use AI a lot. I use it for many different things. It's made my work more efficient. But I also believe that after being in 20 years in telecommunications at every level of management and product development to sales, after doing 10 years of media, after having exposure, probably a little over 10 years in politics, and then of course having a background in government, I would be considered skilled labor, right? Because I could put deals together. I understand the ins and outs of business, telecoms, so I could use AI to my advantage to, do proposals faster, to analyze documents faster, to put together numbers of what I'm proposing. Does it make sense? But when it comes to, first of all, like entry-level jobs, AI has replaced data entry. AI is replacing paralegals, right? What do we need paralegals for, right? You get them to work in a law firm doing a lot of legal research, and that is their way of working up to becoming full-time lawyers and to making partner one day, hopefully. There is AI for law, where you can go and do case law, which is what paralegals do. That's efficiency, but that replaces the need of people. There's AI now for accounting. Like, what it is you need less humans to do the job that AI can do. Yes, you still need oversight. You still need a human or some humans to have oversight over what these AI programs are. But right now, AI is far smarter than human beings. At this point, you will not find a human being that's smarter than AI. This has affected even Tata Consulting Group. They're having mass layoffs. If you've watched the news for the last year or so, is because why would I go to a consulting firm when I can just have AI do analysis within seconds? And if I am skilled enough, I know what I'm looking for to do proper prompts, to do even mass scale research that would take a consulting firm weeks or months to give you. I could do that with AI right now, a lot faster pace. ACL, they are backbone of that massive corporation is IT, right? Right now, when it comes to coding, AI replaces that. You don't need entry-level coding anymore. Right now, if I wanted to create an app, I could just go and write what I want. AI will write the coding for me without me getting any coding experience. So yes, it's great for innovators, for skilled labor who understands what to do and how to get into the marketplace and know where the gaps are to become more efficient, to execute faster. But it is not good for people who don't have any job experience. It's not good for your entry-level people. It's affecting youth jobs significantly as well, because it replaces so much redundancy. But here's the other thing: we could say that we always thought that when it comes to creativity, AI wasn't going to replace that. When ChatGPT came along, it created copy. You could write script faster, you could write songs, you could give it a prompt to write you a hit movie. Obviously oversight with skilled labor to make tweaks, but when it comes to all of that groundwork, AI can do it for you in seconds. And you can go down a rabbit hole with that. Then we come to the aspect of okay, AI is still intellectual, right? And then it's not going to replace physical labor. Well, we're right now in a race for super intelligence, which we already have AI that's more intelligent than the average person. And here's the thing: I'm not against AI. I'm just presenting the reality of every case of somebody who tracks the news and uses AI all the time and sees what's happening. So here's the other thing: we thought that AI is going to only, okay, and now it can do creative work, you do analysis work, and what's not going to do, labor. Right? We've seen the mass amount of robots that China is just sourcing out that are working in manufacturing plants and everything else. Did you know that, when it comes to drivers, transport, they thought, okay, AI is not going to change that. Well, do you know that Uber has a new business model? Right now, Uber is looking to invest $1.25 billion in Riven, which is about 500 million in euro, which is to replace having autonomous cars. Waymo launched in the market. If you've been to Los Angeles, you would see self-driving electric vehicles, right? Which was cheaper in the market.
Yeah, I think we lost Monaji, but hopefully she can join us soon. Yeah, but I think, please go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I think Monaji's points are 100% valid. I think that is a big concern where we are losing entry-level jobs. I don't think that it's completely taking over jobs. I think it is in some aspect with data entry, but I think it's taking over tasks a lot more. And I think that what we have to understand is that with the future, everything's changing. We can't hold on to data entry jobs from 20 years ago and expect that won't take over anything 20 years later, because then we're not evolving as a society, we're not evolving as a country. So I think that, it will take over jobs, but it's also created a plethora of careers. 20 years ago, would you ever hire a social media manager? Would you ever hire someone to do prompt engineering? No? You'd be like, what is that? So now you have a lot of entry-level jobs that may have been taken over with automation, but who's creating that automation? Who's doing the prompt engineering? Who's creating these platforms that we're buying, that we're helping to use for automation? That's creating a plethora of careers now. So I think that's the question as well, is I don't think the challenge is, are we taking over jobs and are we leaving people unemployed? I do understand that the unemployment rate is increased a lot, and I don't think that that's something that we should ignore. I think that's also something to do with the economy that the government has to address on its own basis. But I do think that the challenge is getting Canadians access to the right resources to learn about what AI is, to get the skills. I think we need to worry about upskilling within our country and find ways to have Canadians have easy access to all of these resources. So I was lucky enough, I got a master's in artificial intelligence. That's not something that's easily accessible to all Canadians. That's not something that a lot of Canadians have the time or the money to do all the time. So for a lot of these entry-level jobs, let company, the $500 million that Carney has promised to invest in these Canadian AI companies, let's use that for education. Let's use that for training. Let's train our employees instead of getting rid of them, and help them use AI so that we can keep them, but just have them be more efficient.
Yeah. I will also say this, yes, the points that have been highlighted with Monaji, I think they're very valid concerns. And yes, there has been a lot of discussion, a lot of debate on this one. Are we going to lose our jobs to AI? Yes, of course. I think we're already losing lots of jobs. There have been lots of jobs that have been slashed. But as you rightly mentioned, today there are a lot of new jobs. The social media manager now, people, AI. Look at us. We are at Ymedia. We are setting up a complete tech department, and AI is a very important component of that. If you would have asked me 10, 12 years ago, I don't think so. We would have had a separate department set up just for AI itself. And I doubt you you did your master's in AI. I don't think so that 10 years ago there was a course I doubt that course even existed 10 years ago. So what's the exact course? And we brought in, when I heard, Ramji, so when I saw your resume, so when I heard that yes, you've done your master's in AI, so I right away offered you a job at Ymedia. I said, please join us, and now you're leading our tech department, you're leading our AI. So as much as I totally agree, Monaji's concerns are absolutely valid. Everyone is talking about all these concerns right now. But even some entry-level jobs, I doubt, the plumbing, like, okay, fine.
That's not entry-level job, that's trades. That's different.
Yeah,
AI kicked me out actually because I was going on a roll. If I can finish. Did you guys know? I want to really finish this point. Did you know that? So when it comes to transportation, right? Drivers thought, okay, we're going to be the last ones replaced, right? Do you know that there's a partnership between Rivian and Uber? Uber has committed to $1.2 billion with Rivian Automotive to deploy 50,000 autonomous R2 robotaxis. And this is supposed to roll out in 2028 in 25 cities. Why? Because Waymo, if you've been to Los Angeles, you would see there's self-driving electric vehicles that is cheaper than Lyft and Uber. And so Uber is changing their entire business model to, $1.25 billion. Before, Uber didn't have fleets. It was a platform that connected drivers to people who needed a ride for a certain amount that beat taking traditional taxis. So there's a lot of disruption, right? And it's part of our evolution, yes. But I think the question is the fast-paced evolution of how things are going is part of the concerns people have. As much as, there's been research that AI will create, many jobs, it's also the question of how many jobs will be lost and what do you do with those people in terms of placing them into jobs, right? And what you just talked about plumbing, that's trades, right? That's why we're hearing, the most safety in terms of in our government, like when I cover the news of what Mark Carney talks about, he's putting, we know we're in a technical recession. So what is he doing? He's taking our tax dollars and investing it. He's investing in defense, saying here's 120,000 jobs in defense because we're all arming up because of the global situation of instability, which is very scary, right? Arctic security, our neighbors to the south, what's happening with all these geopolitical situations. Okay, so military spending, it's going to create jobs. Okay, we know AI is a big part of when it comes to even weaponry, right? When it comes to war and all the weapons that now AI can be more specific. Very scary. Okay. Then we have Prime Minister Mark Carney talk about jobs in the trades, investing there, making sure people are skilling up, because right now you do need the electricians who are going to go build all these data centers, right? That's so when you're looking at where are the jobs right now, it seems like Canada's message based on the announcements of all the spending this government's doing in those sectors, that's where the jobs are, because when it comes to the private sector, it's weak growth. It's absolutely weak growth. And then there's the question of like, you're going to have all these data centers. What is the health risk here, right? Have we done the analysis of like, how much does it cost to actually run a data center, right? So here's the thing. I understand why we have to do these things. It's because the world is going in a direction and we can't sit behind, right? And it'll be devastating because we won't have skilled labor for these jobs. But let's take into consideration all this fast-paced stuff, what it means. So we're all consenting, right? And we know that we're opting into a consensual situation to know, okay, here are some of the drawbacks. We knew about it, therefore we're going to prepare for it. So like to run a data center, right? You need an ample amount of water, right, to cool down the systems. We're talking about, some of the data centers that went up in the US took about 6% of the city's electricity, right? So we're talking about massive investment and drain on the system, but it also needs a lot of critical resources to be able to, operate these data centers like lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper. So we're going to dig that up. Right. And then you have the exposure of where are these data centers going to be? Because we're right now rapidly pacing of developing them so we stay competitive. And to Iram's point, yeah, AI came out of researchers from the universities here, but we're losing talent because of this massive race, because Canada doesn't have a strategy, which now we do. But the question remains about where are the safety standards on all this? What does it mean for jobs? What does it mean for the government that when you have the CEO of OpenAI say, hey, look into universal basic income. Let's just say that's $2,000. Okay, the government has to pay people $2,000 because they don't have a place of work. Okay, where are they getting that money? Because when people work, they pay their income taxes. Those taxes go to the government coffers for them to say what they're going to spend on. So where are they going to get that money? Are they going to now tax these AI companies, which we've created data centers? We're creating some of these jobs and some of these trainings with taxpayer dollars, right? So is this strategy that the government's now going to increase a special tax rate for any AI-driven company? Because when you look at the stock market, the AI companies are booming. Right? The valuations of all these AI startups is massive. So what is the tax criteria there that is going to possibly go into a fund for this universal basic income when you hear about it from the likes of, the CEO of OpenAI? So this is just my input about, let's take a look at everything and let's just have a conversation about what does it mean? There's a lot of bonuses, but there's a lot of unknown that we need to just be ready for.
Yeah. To your point, yes, there are a lot of unknowns. That's what I was about to say, because I've been continuously talking that yes, AI with good governance, AI regulated, whatever term we want to use. I mean, the current shape, the current form of AI that we are using, yes, of course, there are many people who are the leaders in AI who have discussed OpenAI. They are even discussing this, that we can't run the state of affairs like this, and it could also pose a challenge for the human race itself. So yes, all those regulations have to be in place, the governance has to be in place, and then who controls AI, but how much control do we need? All these aspects of AI have to be controlled, and we're going to talk more challenges that we're going to face ahead with the social media, the deep fakes, and all those things. This could actually, this is one thing which could definitely, if not regulated properly, pose a challenge to the human existence, human race, or not just the human race itself, but maybe to the entire planet as well. All the species that coexist with us. So how do we regulate that? So I would say that. But again, coming back to one point, what I was trying to say is that yes, I just want to finish my thought regarding the plumber. That's what I was already saying. Plumber is not only a skilled job, but also I want to have a human interaction. So if I would pick up a phone and call a plumber, and as much as there could be with an AI or a robot, just call and they will come to your home and they'll fix the stuff. But here's a machine coming, and what are they doing? Will this machine be able to fix or not? I would rather call a plumber, come to home, interact with that person, and show him around that this is a place, this is what we need that, and get it done with. Maybe I'm old school, but even today, when I check out at a grocery counter, I know it is being encouraged that no, go ahead at the auto checkout counter. But for me, I would always want to interact with the person, with someone who can say, hi, how's your day going? That interaction, even while I'm ordering coffee, Of course, there are so many systems, we can order your coffee yourself, it makes, but then again, at the end of the day, I would want to interact with someone, hi, hello. And there are so many professions, I still believe, the complex processes, as much as it'll be a huge advantage in the medical system. But to calm down the anxieties of a person who's lying down, this person has never gone under the blade, and this person is anxious, but the machine is just coming on top. Oh, okay, we're ready, tuck, buttons on, we're going to do a surgery. No, thank you. Here is a surgeon, nurse, there are 3 people standing, he's being administered anesthesia or whatever the procedure is, that procedure is. Okay, you have this person, the person says, okay, take it easy, everything is going to be fine, we do this on regular basis. Then you have the surgeon coming, there's some staff people, the person can talk, okay, what's your issue if you have pain? I doubt anybody who's having so many challenges with the health and this person is going for a surgery, and here you are with all these robots and AI. Of course, you can take the help of AI. I think that's what I'm saying. A good blend of human usage and a good blend of tech or AI. Please go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think that just to your point of healthcare as well, I think that's Carney's point, is that it's going to help with diagnostics. It's going to help with helping doctors make decisions or coming up with plans, whether that be a health plan or what surgery to do. But I agree with your point that there's no way that it could take over a surgeon's job, whether that be like you're saying the comfort of having someone talk to you and walk you through it, but also making decisions. I think that AI does a great job at mimicking a human brain, but I don't think it could ever fully, and this is my opinion, is that I don't think AI could ever fully mimic the emotional intelligence of a human. So knowing, let's say, if it's a mom giving birth, knowing whether to save the mother or the child, you can train AI to do it, but when it comes down to it, that's an emotional decision. That's a decision you have to make with having emotional intelligence. And you can never teach a robot emotional intelligence to that extent, is my opinion. So I don't think, again, to your point, it could ever take over healthcare. I think also talking about environment as well, I know Ramona, you mentioned as well, that there's a big environment concern, the amount of water it takes to cool down these data centers as well. I think Carney, I know, touched slightly on that, talking about Canada's use of clean energy. So the amount of water sources that we have and finding ways to do this, using clean energy could be our advantage as well. And then also touching base on the privacy and data, I think to your point, Ymedia, as well, is that, yeah, we do need to do this hand in hand. It's not AI and no more humans, and it's not humans and no more AI. It's work together and hand in hand, and finding it's AI with governance, to your point. And I know that was one, I don't know if everyone got to watch Mark Carney's full interview, but he talked about 6 pillars, and he highlighted 6 pillars in his new strategy, and that's first, protecting Canadians. Protect Canadians in the democracy that's going on. So to Ramonaji's point, making sure that everybody agrees to this happening. And then expanding the AI adoption, so making sure that everyone's open to adopting AI. And then building Canadian infrastructure. So again, US is taking over way too much. A lot of our data centers are US owned. So have Canadian infrastructure, have data centers that are Canadian owned. Supporting the AI companies, training Canadians in AI. And then lastly, the 6th pillar is building public trust and safety around AI, which is the biggest point I think that we need to continue to discuss and continue to talk about. Is it's great that we're having AI, it's great that we're dumping millions of dollars into AI, but do you trust AI? Is this something that you can ask everyone on the street, hey, would you trust AI? I think the majority of people would tell you no. Oh my God, AI is so scary, AI is taking over. Because we're not giving people enough education, we're not giving people enough information, and we're not helping them build that trust. Like to Ramonaji's point, if we're not giving consent, if we're not asking people their opinion, if we're not giving people education, but we're just dumping AI, nobody's going to trust it. So I think that we need to focus on the AI safety measures that also, to my last point, that Carney talked about as well, is new privacy and data laws. So he wants to implement those. He wants to talk a lot about AI misinformation. So crack down on what the misinformation is, and give people that education on that. Online safety laws, again, to your point on social media and what the age restriction should be. Having those safety laws in place that are laws and not just opinions on whether it should be a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, but having actual laws for what's going on online. And then trusted AI certification. So I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of certifications around cybersecurity where a lot of platforms will have like the official like secure platform. that you have to get a certification for. So now Carney is actually implementing a trusted AI certification. So platforms will have that certification so that someone like you or me who's going on a website and, or anyone who doesn't have that much knowledge on what AI is, if you just see that badge, it's kind of like when you go for food and it's the halal certification. This is trusted, I can eat this, they're certified. Same with the trusted AI. You go on the website and you know that's something that you can trust because it's past the laws that Carney has in place. So I think that these are all really important. And I think, again, to Ramona, your point, we need to have governance. And we need to find ways to also find people who are in entry-level jobs and not just dismiss them. But I think that the $500 million that we're investing in Canadian AI companies, again, I'm repeating my point, put it in education, put it in training. So don't get rid of your employees. And Ramona asked the question of where are we going to put these entry-level jobs, people who are losing their jobs, where are we going to put them now they're out of a job? I think that's what we need to maybe have a law, maybe have some sort of regulation around that the $500 million that's going into these companies and the funds they're getting from the government, that it must be used for training. So you're not leaving people unemployed, but you're helping them use AI and creating jobs in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's equally important, how does this message get out? We are in the media business, so obviously we knew this, that the Prime Minister is going to make this announcement, and I think there was a draft also that came out. Then there was discussion during the budget as well. I was with the Innovation Minister earlier this last month as well, and we get to hear so many things. But you're right. How does this message get out to a common Canadian that anyone who's in an entry-level job, they also feel safe, and yes, the transition from an entry-level job to any other job of their choice, or in case they want to work with AI, so that transition, how does that happen smoothly? It's a massive challenge, easier said than done, but Ramona ji, she always,
Yes,
listen to you.
I have so much to say on this. Okay.
Go ahead,
So this
please.
entire social media thing about if you're under the age of 16, the ban on social media. Tell me, how is the federal government going to impose that? So I'm 15 years old. I'm sitting in my home, and I'm on my phone. What? I just don't understand. Like it's very nice when you have laws, but you have to also think about how do you implement that law, right? Like what happens when a 15-year-old uses or goes on social media? What, like they're going to get charged? Police are going to be alerted. 911 is going to be called. What, like the parents are constantly watching? What is it going to be? If you have a Bell phone or a Telus phone and they know your age, they're going to just restrict social media. Like, I don't understand how we come up with certain laws and then we expect to implement it. Is it just like a cute law that's like, oh, we have something, so, but how do you use it? How do you implement it? And what kind of a society would we be in if somebody gets into trouble for using a platform, a social media platform? Those kind of societies, I think these are the reasons we immigrate away we come to Canada, to get away from those dictatorial societies where there's a ban on the internet, there's a ban on social media. Like, like when you're 15, you think you're like pretty cool and you know a lot of stuff, right? So I don't know how a parent would even impose, like, what are you not going to give your kids a cell phone until they're 16, where they're not have laptops when the schools are giving laptops? So I don't even understand that. So in theory, there's something, but like, let's talk practicality, right? Then there's the other thing. Let's talk about this, right? So you have Anthropic, right? This company is right now valued at $965 billion. Let's call it $1 billion. They were doing simulation on their AI development, right? Anthropic is right now competing with OpenAI. OpenAI, Sam Altman said, universal basic income, you're going to not have jobs. But hey, Elon Musk, who was against AI for the longest time, said, hey, he really warned it. He even took OpenAI to court, lost that battle because he said it should have been a non-for-profit, not for profit, which is because he was an early investor in it, right? And then Microsoft came in and then it became a for-profit business. And he was saying, well, this is starting an AI race that we can't continue. Then he saw nothing's happening. He started with his XAI, right? And he said, okay, well, you know what? A lot of these CEOs in private say they're very concerned. In public, they say, hey, AI will do jobs where then you can focus on your hobbies, which makes it things for people, let's just say, who lose their career, right? Not even entry level. I'm talking about somebody who's been in a career for 30 years. Now that job is obsolete. Let's say you're a consultant and you do analysis and now AI does it better. And there's like 50,000 consultants, right? What do? A lot of us in the Western world, maybe in the Eastern world as well, are when you ask somebody, hi, nice to meet you, when you meet them, what do you do? Tell me about yourself. First thing they do is they tell you their name and then they tell you what they do. Oh, I'm so and so at such and such company, or I own this. Our identity is so intertwined with what we do for work because we spend more hours in the workplace than we do doing anything else, really. Right. So there's that entire correlation of when Elon Musk says, well, AI is going to make things so, easy where you can just then pursue your hobbies. Right. OK, well, who am I if I'm not this? So that's a transition I think humans need to make. But I want to go back to Anthropic. Right. This is a $1 billion company, right, competing with OpenAI, almost going to surpass it. Their AI developers were running a test. This was all over the news. So for people who don't know about this, Google it, you will find out about it, okay? So they were running test scenarios on artificial intelligence, right, and their systems, and what it meant for self-preservation of AI. And so here's what happened. So when they asked it a question in terms of like, just basic questions about, how to overcome, the population growth and this and that. And then there was an entire thing of saying, okay, well, let's delete yourself if you put out an answer that would risk human lives, that you would delete yourself. What did AI do? The AI simulation model that they're working on, this is a $1 billion company, right? What it did was it rewrote its own code. And then what it decided to do was it decided to do a blackmail email to the AI researchers to say, hey, I know from your private emails that you're having an affair with so-and-so, or you're doing this, and therefore I'm going to leak it. Obviously, we know about this story because the AI researchers launched it, but that goes to show a level of intelligence that was there, that it rewrote its own code. So if it was going to delete itself, then it was going to have a code. And then also as a self-preservation, it decided to do the blackmail. So this threat, if you look this up, it was just phenomenal. It made rounds in every newsroom about like, this is what researchers are finding, right? And this is very early on. This happened a while ago. So we could just imagine where things are at right now. So this is fast paced. So now when we talk about robots, okay. Oh, there was a job of the doctor who, read scans, like when you do an x-ray, and then AI obviously does a better job at reading x-rays. There's more efficiencies. This doctor goes on TikTok and says, okay, my job just became obsolete because I was a specialist in reading x-rays, right? So there's that entire thing of like, okay, if my job gets replaced or most of my job gets replaced, what is my identity? And I think it's a good question for us humans to have an identity outside of our jobs. Like you'd veer you away from being ahead of Ymedia or in terms of what you do. The good thing is at least you have a relationship with the viewers and the listeners, and AI can't replace you, right? But AI has made its way into our lives in a sense where we enjoy AI videos like TikToks. Like how cute is the dancing monkey to like Michael Jackson's song? Like it's very cute. We'll watch it on Endless, right? But then when you move into the robots, China is leading the world when it comes to industrial robots. It's already launched it. Like right now, there was tests done at the border of the Chinese border with policing to see how it does. We've seen talent shows, robots dancing, like what you would watch with America's Got Talent. And you're seeing it in the automotive industry, in the manufacturing hubs. So China is ahead of the game. It's ahead of the game in the EV market, right? When it comes to 60% of EVs come from China. They look very nice. But when it comes to robots, 54% of new industrial robots installations worldwide come from China. Right now, they have a world record stock of 2 million factory robots, right? Which is valued at $47 billion. This is all early stages. We just got in touch with AI as a retail human use just 2 years ago. But when you look at fast track with Morgan Stanley, they're right now fast tracking some of these other companies to say, you know what? Profits are down when it comes to just retail use, where you have $19 for a monthly subscription on OpenAI or any other, or Claude. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a portfolio of going AI to businesses, because obviously it's a more stickier business model. You have a subscription base in terms of volume of numbers, which looks better on the portfolios. That's the strategy of where it's going. But what does it mean for the average person is, I think, the bigger question. But going back to this whole social media cuteness thing that Prime Minister Mark Carney's put out, I don't know how you implement somebody below the age of 16 years old not using social media, and how that would even happen, and what kind of trouble would they get into. That's my take.
Yeah, no, Carney, I think he hasn't
yeah.
put it out as yet, but I think the discussion was on.
Yeah.
And Carney didn't put it out as yet that they're going to, because Canada is discussing on these lines that should Canada also put age restrictions like Australia has done. Some countries in Europe are also trying to do that. There is discussion. There's discussion going on right now, and talking about the age restriction, about the implementation aspect. We all know right now, I mean, the age restriction, say, I'll pick a name here. What do you want to pick, Facebook or TikTok? Okay, TikTok, okay. TikTok is 13 years, right?
Yeah.
So now there are technological advancements that, yes, you can do facial reading of the age. Of course, it's still going to be challenging. I know that. There are always going to be loopholes, you know. But then right now, the age for someone to go on TikTok is 13. So either you have your credit card, either your parents verify for you, but somebody does that for you. And then there is technology available. 100% is technology available. Even right now, they do this facial reading of your age. Right now, with the technology, I mean, you could put on makeup or you could do whatever. But at the end of the day, there is penetration, and they can check what is your age right now. And certain people, have faced these challenges as well. So I think there is going to be a lot of advancement in technology. So this may not be that much of a debate, that how do you implement at least the checking of the age, the verification of the age. That's one part. But Ramona ji's point is very much valid, that you can't go around in people's houses, you were just 15 and why did you get a social media account? That's fine. But at least have a law or a framework in place that, yes, if you're not 16, I'm not saying it should be 16, I'm just saying that it could be 15, it could be 14, right now it's 13. There's another aspect to it. As much as I'm a strong supporter, I've always been saying this, get your youth connected to science, innovation, technology. I've always said these things. But what sort of world are we creating? Can you imagine a world where most of the information is being taken from, not from books, not from newspapers, not from all those things in the library, but we have our phone, and I'm trying to gather all the information from social media. We as a journalist sometimes have tough time in differentiating that misinformation, the disinformation. There's misinformation and then there's disinformation. So we have tough time. Imagine a teenager, I mean, how would they know? And social media, I'm not saying any above the age of 15 or 16 or 17, whatever age restriction we want to put across. I'm not saying that, yes, they can be radicalized, but I think we're putting these teenagers at they could be easily vulnerable. We've seen all this horrible news coming out when the teenagers at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, just because they were on social media, things got wrong. And I'm again, I would say this, I would encourage responsible use of social media, if at all it's being used for anybody under the age of 16 or 15. We have, there are age restrictions for everything. This is a particular age when you get the license. This is a particular age that you can go and buy alcohol. This is a particular age when you get to vote. So that particular age is already quite vulnerable. We don't want to hand over them. And then internet, the challenge with internet is, one of the biggest challenge that I see with internet is, there are many predators across the globe, and who are preying on children. We've heard some very horrible stories, So that is another aspect of the story. And I believe, so again, I could be wrong, there is no delete button. There is no delete button. You can, okay, a 14-year-old or 13-year-old today, we all have done things, even as adults, we do things which we say, things could go horribly wrong for us as adults. Okay, fine, we'll live with it. I'll own up, we'll live with it. Fine, whatever happened, happened. But here is a 13, 14, 15-year-old, and then, they go on internet and they post a picture or a video. They don't know when the camera is on or anything. That can be a cause of trauma for them throughout their lives. So I'm just saying, as much as I'm saying a balanced, a regulated, or a better governed use of AI, very similarly a balanced, maybe a more regulated, we can try. I know there will always be loopholes. The piracy for movies has never ended. Has it ended? The piracy for our TV channel. I mean, I know our channel is being, as much as we love, whenever I look at an email, this is your subscription revenue. Honestly, I don't even look at that anymore. I get email that this is your subscription revenue. I don't even look at that because the numbers that we were expecting in 2012, 11, the projections that I made, I know. I mean, our viewership has gone exponentially, but our subscription has gone down to the point that it doesn't even make a business case. To look at, I mean, I'm not saying that's a major source. I don't even look at our subscription numbers. No. So that is an issue. But I think Ramona she wants to add something. Please.
I do. Yeah. So there's a difference when you have debate in the House of Commons for bills that they would propose. You have to look at that as like, how would you implement it, which is this entire social media thing. And then you got to realize that after the age of, after 2008, when the iPhone came out, let's push that till 2010. There is a naturalization for the youth that they don't know an era before before the age of like internet and computers and iPhones and iPads. And so they've already developed in this era of like, this is what they use for school. This is what they use of streaming services for their TV, multiple screens, right? Screens when you're out at a restaurant and the parents put a screen in front of you so you behave and you eat your meal, right? Or with the TV, like this is the era they've grown up in. So it's very difficult to then say, oh, well, you've been used to using all these screens and internet and everything else, and now you're not going to have access to social media. And yeah, there are concerns when it comes to deep fakes. Go watch the movie Mountainhead. It was an HBO movie, and I'll just set up the scene. It was, some CEOs of tech companies, and one of them had a technology of deep fakes that it looked so realistic that when you saw it on social media, you didn't know if it was true. Like right now, if you show me an image of, there's actually a movie, an old Hollywood movie, I have to remember its name, but they entirely faked an entire war. Right? Like you wouldn't know, because if you're getting images that this is happening in a different continent and there's all this feedback. So people were going into revolutions, they were, reacting, looting, hitting the streets, thinking like so-and-so got assassinated, this world leader, this happened, it was responsible because of this ethnic group. And part of that, there was a lot of chaos. So you had the bunker of these CEOs who were just in hiding in a beautiful multi-million-dollar facility mansion. But watch the movie; it gives you great insight on like what some deep fakes can do in the future, because it just looks so realistic. Like right now, AI voice, there's a lot of AI voice that sounds really realistic. There's still, you can tell the difference, but this is just still the beginning. Right now you can kind of tell the difference with the kind of fake AI that you see on social media, but give it a little bit more time and it's going to distort. Stats came out like 2 weeks ago that 50% of the internet is written by AI. And the scary thing there, the warning there is that there could be a lot of misinformation. If you now do a Google search, now what they do is they prioritize an AI chatbot way easier. Like, I'm not complaining about how easy things have become, but you also have to understand the repercussions of things, right? So super easy. You go onto Google, you type what you want instead of going through like 10 different websites to see somebody wrote something about this. There's some historical things. And this is before. You used to go to a reference library before there was the internet. But anyways, now you do your research on the internet, and now you have this AI chatbot that Google has launched where it'll source all the material in there. You'll read it. You can ask questions from the chatbot. And now you're not going to websites. New way to do search engine optimization. But am I going to double check my reference? what am I using it for? So when you hear the stats that 50% of the internet now is written by AI, and that's the other thing, like a lot of copy, a lot of code, a lot of internet, verbiage, it's all AI. So we are in an era of, are we deleting certain history that you can't pull on the internet anymore because it's just not available? Is it being rewritten? So it is kind of a time where, like, yeah, you have to educate yourself. You have to probably pick up books, but if you're not used to it, it just leaves you in that spot of like, what's to come. I understand the AI strategy we have to do to make sure that we keep talent in Canada. I understand the regulations. I understand the investments to make sure people are being, trained to be competitive in the marketplace and to be able to contribute and earn a decent living. But then there's all these other criteria that I think at some point, I don't know how government is going to regulate or manage, right? Like we've had cases of people going to like ChatGPT, asking it health questions, and then following through and then having a seizure or having to go to the hospital because they didn't prompt it properly or they got misinformation. Now you have more people that go to their AI for therapy, right? To talk about whatever. And it's available. You don't have to go to a therapist at 3 a.m. You could just go to your AI and it'll talk to you. And now the versions that are from 2023 to now, they'll ask you another question to keep the prompts going. There's a memory, whereas before it was just spitting out information. There was no memory of the conversation. It wasn't connected to the internet. There's a lot of developments, right? Because you had OpenAI backed by Microsoft to be able to do that. And then you saw Google catch up very quickly. So a lot of cool things are happening, but at the same time, just like any new fad, you want to know what the repercussions are and how it's going to affect us. And this might be too big for any government to regulate, I think, eventually.
Yeah, I think that I completely agree with the point that I think with age restrictions with social media, it's near impossible, at least at this stage, until again we start going to those facial recognitions. And even then, like, there are so many times where I'll go into an app or a website and I'll say, "Are you 13?" What's stopping a 10-year-old from saying yes? Like nothing, right? Like I think that's very difficult to regulate in that sense. And again, to Ramonji's point, and to your point, you can't go into people's houses. You can't stop it from happening. I think the more important question is not how do we stop or how do we limit the amount of people on social media or the age, because again, to Ramonji's point, when you have someone who from a young age is so used to having it, whether that be your iPad and watching YouTube videos when you're eating your food or what it may be, you can't just pull that away from someone. And that's just going to put everyone against, whether that be Carney, and Carney's not going to do that to himself either, I don't think. So I think that the more important question is how do we regulate what is going online and not who has access to online. I think that's the biggest question, and even that, again, to Ramonji's point, I think it's way too big for us to fully regulate. But these videos that we're seeing that she's talking about, these deep fakes, how are we going to regulate those? And I think that we're already working towards that. I don't know if you've probably seen as well that on Facebook and Instagram, they're taking down pages, they're taking down content that like it'll give you a little blurb saying this content's not available in Canada because it's a deep fake and it's detected that. So that's way it is regulated. To Ramonji's question is how do we find ways to regulate? I think that's one of the biggest ways to regulate it. And I don't think that we'll be able to fully regulate it. I think, again, it is too big, at least at this point, until we keep working towards it. But it's a question that should always be at the table. It's a topic of discussion that should always be at the table when we're putting millions and billions of dollars into AI and wanting it to be something that's so great for Canada, is the safety and it's the governance. And like to Ramonji's point right now, that it's helped people with therapy, it's helped people with so many different things, and it has this memory and it talks to you and it's as if like you're talking to a real therapist. But what is the safety and governance behind that? And that's a question that we need to address more than how do we stop people from going on it, because that's not going to stop. More and more users are going to be using ChatGPT or any AI platform and social media every single day, if not every hour. But it's how do we regulate that, and how do we find ways to make sure that we're limiting the amount of deep fakes, we're limiting the amount of scams that are now being created with AI, the online frauds and misinformation, things with just like presidency or with the new prime minister elections or the municipal elections that we're going to be going into. There's a lot of deepfakes that'll probably be created even with that'll affect people and their eligibility to like run for office. So I think that we need to be making sure that we're constantly asking the question of how does governance happen and how do we continue to improve governance and not just set governance now and not think about it again. That's a question that should be asked every day and should always be at the table. But again, I think it's a very, very, very big issue, and I think it's kind of, again, to Ron's point, too big for the government to be able to handle right now. So that's a question that we need to keep asking ourselves: is how are we going to manage it?
Yeah, and you know, as I know, as much challenging it is to manage all these things, but I think there are already many states in US, many countries in Europe. Australia has already done that. I know, I was listening to the debates on both sides. There were teenagers, to your point and Monaji's point earlier, there were teenagers, they were saying, no, I mean, this is so cruel. How could, I mean, obviously a 14-year-old will always want, or a 15-year-old, they say, oh, we want to go on social media right now. But here am I asking a question. It's only this age group. Say, for example, right now, 13, you have to be 13. I know there are many say 12 plus. 12 plus is not 13. So they say, okay, a 13-year-old kid can create an account on TikTok. But of course, there are certain things that 13-year-old can do. But if we move it up to a little bit towards 16, a little bit of delay, that's what I'm saying here. A little bit of a delay that can be of help. That's number one. The other part is, as much as I'm a very strong supporter of connecting with science, AI, technology, but then you just mentioned a teenager having food with TikTok or AI or something on. I could be wrong, and this is a very subjective thing, and I'm not here to preach anything, but while we are having a food, how good is it to watch something on social media and then have our food? Are we really focusing on what we are eating? Anyways, I don't want to preach anything. The other aspect of this is, when we grew up as a kids, parents, the only issue parents would have is they're not coming back. We had a park in front of our house. We'll start with cricket because that's need more bit of light. And then finally, when it would get a little bit dark after the sunset, we'll start playing soccer. So we don't want to go indoors. Our parents would say, please come in. We say, okay, we're coming. So this was a park, and we would either play soccer, first cricket and then soccer, or even field hockey sometimes. So it was more outdoors, and I think it was good for mental health. I think so. I think so. Sports, if there is something which really helps, I'm not saying sports person have mental health challenges too, but I strongly believe that yes, whether it does benefit you if you're playing sports, you get mentally and physically, of course there are physical benefits too, but I think you get mentally strong too. So instead of the time that is spent on social media, of course I'm all in support of a balanced use of everything. I'll give you a quick example. Just yesterday I went back home and was late when I reached home, but I made sure my phone stays upstairs. I came down, I spent time with my wife Preeti, we talked, we were watching TV, or we're just having a discussion. So for those 2.5 hours while I was awake, I made sure my phone was upstairs. I don't want it. And sometimes, it doesn't happen very often. Once in a while I've happened, because usually I check everything before I leave. It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4 thing. 1 for the phone, 2 for my wallet, and 3 for my watch, and 4 for my keys. So whenever I go out, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, done, go. So this is how I operate. Very rarely, I think many years ago, I left my phone at home, and everybody in the office, they offered me, sir, you can have our phone. We have burner phones at $1. I said, it's fine. Actually, yeah, it's good for me. And that was many years ago. So I said, that's okay. I left my phone home. That's fine. I'm enjoying. And I do it on purpose many times on Sunday as well. Maybe after a few hours, I'll go and check my phone. I think so. Again, I could be wrong, and I don't want to preach, or I don't even want to suggest, let alone advising anyone. I don't want to even suggest that teenagers should be avoiding. But I think if I had a chance to relive my teenage years, I would definitely not want. No, I would want the same sort of childhood that I lived, playing sports outdoors, soccer, cricket, field hockey, interacting, the human connection. Very respectfully with folded hands, I'm saying this. Many times we see, this was not the concept, like closed doors. The teenagers, okay, you go to someone's place, they're all having their own closed doors, they're all sitting there in their own rooms. with a small phone or an iPad, you know. So I think so. Even while having food on the table, the dinner we're having, but you know, everyone is on their phone. We go out to a restaurant, everybody's on their phone. So maybe I'm suggesting too much, but that's all I will say. And I think it's time we take a very short break. But before we take a short break, I want Ramona. I want Ramona to say some. I'll give both of you a chance to say something before we get for the break, and Ramona ji will carry on leading the show. Ramona ji, your final comments and then yours. Then we.
Yeah, so something very small is, you know, like when you look at Elon Musk, who learned how to code at the age of 10 and is running, you know, all these companies, I don't even have to list it, or like Bill Gates, he learned how to code at the age of 13. You know, we're in an age where after 2010, you have the naturalization of using these electronics for the youth. I remember I was working with somebody young, and we were trying to make sure that the phone line works. And I had said, hey, can you pick up the phone and see if there's a dial tone? This person was in their 20s and they didn't even know what a dial tone was, because when you have a phone, like when you have a cell phone, you don't have a dial tone. That's like when you have landline, right? Goes to show, like, you know, there's no era of like fax anymore. We're not like, that's done, right? And so you have the era of people who are naturalized in using technology, and more so is now you have AI companies like Aura, founded by teenagers. It already hit a $1 billion valuation. You have Delve AI. It was founded by a 14-year-old that already has like got $1 million valuation. Like, there's so many AI companies by teenagers or people like in their 20s. So it's going to be very difficult to say to them, hey, you were born in this thing, but guess what? Our government wants to keep you safe, and we're going to keep you off social media. And you know what? This facial recognition, like, you know, when you don't have the right IP address to watch certain content, what do? You go get, you know, an IP address that is on a local network so you can watch certain content. You don't think there's going to be technology that's going to help you with facial recognition so you can you know, log into your app on social media? Like, wherever there's regulation, there's always going to be counter you know, options and tools to be able to bypass is an industry on its own, gray market, whatever you want to call it. But you know, the reality is some of these people have started at a very young age, and that's why they are where they are. So sometimes parents do want their kids to be exposed to the way the technology is going, and for them to be geared to be in the right place, right? And you know, if Bill Gates wasn't, you know, fiddling around with coding at the age of 13, would we have Microsoft? If Elon Musk didn't teach himself to code at the age of 10, would we have all these other companies that he's contributed to, from PayPal to everything else in between? So that's just my take, my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Great discussion. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think one or two points are valid, that there's always going to be a workaround, and we're always going to find a way, again, bypassing his own industry, like she just mentioned. And I think it's true, like, what's going to stop me from not even finding an application, but going to my older sister and saying, hey, you put your face on this quickly so I can get access to this. So I think there's always workarounds, and I think that my last statement, my thoughts are about AI is that it's here to stay. And I made this statement when people used to ask me about my thoughts on people using AI to write their essays or, you know, for studying. And I think that I had this statement a year ago, and I have this statement now, and the same opinion now, is that AI is not going anywhere. So teachers, professors, the education system, the government needs to stop saying don't use AI. Like, oh, you know, the new AI detection platforms, we're going to find out if you're using AI for your essays. Stop telling students not to use AI, because it's here and it's here to stay and it's only going to grow, but teach them how to use it to benefit them. You know they're going to use it, you know they're going to find a workaround, so why not educate them? So programs like the Masters I did, or even having small courses in undergrad programs or colleges or even in high school, start teaching them from a young age the right way to use AI and how to use AI as a tool. Not to use AI as something that will affect them negatively, or something that we're trying to push that AI is this horrible thing, because it's here to stay. Now our government is spending billions of dollars in AI, so let's promote AI in the best way and govern it, and teach young children from the get-go. Like Ramona was saying, we have teenagers opening $1 million AI companies. So let's help them. Let's give them the tools and let's teach them to use AI as a tool and to use it as something that will help them in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. Ramonaji, thank you for your time as always. And I know you're going to lead our next topics as well. For audience, Iramji, thank you so much for sharing all that valuable information. I think a balanced use of AI, a balanced use of technology, a balanced use of social media, that's the thing we would definitely encourage. Of course, we need regulations. A good governance is always encouraged. Stay tuned with Ymedia. Ymedia will be back after a very short break. I wish we had AI to do all that. Thank you so much. Stay tuned with Ymedia. Thank you.
Ymedia Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.